When people come to me, it's a variety of things. They haven't ever done it before. So there's a lot of unknown fear, like what if I buy and then I churn half the portfolio, or what if, a lot of that, which is why I put together programs so that we could get through those things, those mental hurdles, and then people feel confident to move forward. Really, the biggest thing is fear, and kind of working through that and just knowing that you can do it.
Welcome to Unfiltered, the official podcast of propertymanagement.com. I'm your host, Dylan Scroggins, joined by Stacey Salyer out of Bellingham, Washington, acquisition strategist extraordinaire. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm super excited to hang out with you.
I added that extraordinaire at the end just off the whim, but I feel like you've earned that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I will receive it. So thank you.
Yeah, maybe add that to your LinkedIn profile.
Absolutely.
Well, good stuff. Well, that's actually really how we met, is through LinkedIn. I read a lot of your articles, your newsletter, and really excited to have you on. I know we got a ton of mutual friends. So as an acquisition strategist, we're obviously going to talk a lot in this episode about what's happening in PM in regards to acquisitions and what you're seeing on the front lines. But I thought it'd be better to just start off with just some foundation. Tell us how you got involved in this wild world of property management and how you got to where you're at right now.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So it's year 22. So I'm going to do super surface level. If anybody's really super interested, they can go to my LinkedIn or website and read all the fine details. But I got recruited 22 years ago. I was a retail store manager, got recruited into property management, started as a PM. So, I literally have done anything and everything related to property management. 2010, I opened up a PMC for a local home builder. So I started that whole real estate division for him, and we managed third party and his portfolio. And then in 2016, I was a single mom of 3 and thought, you know what, I want to go start my own thing. So I took a huge gamble on myself, leap of faith, and had a very specific vision of what I wanted to create for my community and for my family. And I did it. So I opened my own PMC in 2016. Quickly grew that. And in 2020, had an opportunity to do an acquisition. Didn't know anything, just kind of bumbled my way through that. But I bought 370 doors in my market right at the start of COVID. In fact, we were supposed to close April 1. But as everybody knows, the world kind of shut down in March, right? So we kind of took a short pause, and then we ended up closing June 1st, 2020. And, just worked on, bringing those doors into my business. Obviously, I expanded my team. I expanded my real estate brokerage at that time and just maximized revenue. Did a little divesting of that particular portfolio about a year later in my market. And that was an amazing thing to do. So that's part of actually what I teach as well, is because sometimes you're going to find something that maybe not everything works within that portfolio, but there's opportunity, right? And then Pure Property Management came calling, and I met with them. I loved the vision of Pure. I thought it was really cool how we band together, build together. I had the opportunity to invest in that company as well. So I'm a limited partner in Pure, and decided to stay on with them for a couple of years, and also had the opportunity to become the director of acquisitions for Pure. And so I ran the front mid funnel of the team, and did acquiring throughout the United States and helped build the company in 22 and 23, and ended up exiting Pure in 24, and then launched Property Management Strategist in 2025. And here I am.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. Well, let's back up a little bit. You said something interesting. When you bought those 370 doors, how big was your existing portfolio at that time? And then how'd you find that deal? Was that a friend, competitor? Because I feel like a lot of our past clients have really wanted that local deal that's 300 to 500 doors. So how'd you find it, and what size were you when you did find it?
Yeah, so I was about 200 doors. So imagine overnight going from 200 to well over 500. And I had a real estate brokerage too. And I also had acquired some of the real estate agents as well. So it was a big transition for sure. So I will be honest, I kind of stumbled upon the deal. However, as part of what I do teach is that relationship building and just having the conversation. So I had been talking to a local landlord tenant law attorney in the end of 2019. And I said, hey, I'm looking at growing my business. And he's like, oh, well, would you ever consider buying a business? I was still a single mom at the time and had maybe a little bit more money, but I didn't consider myself like an acquirer. And, but of course I said, of course I'll totally buy the company, because why not? And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'll make it happen if it's something I want to do. And so I had meetings and just kind of went down the road and ended up working out. We did seller financing, put a little bit of money down, and worked out really well.
That's awesome. Yeah, that seems like a pretty big jump from a culture standpoint and just org chart, going from basically over double the size overnight.
Yeah, it was. So interestingly enough, so he ran what I affectionately call a boomer business. So it was him and a bookkeeper for 370 doors.
Wow.
So I didn't really have to worry about necessarily the culture of like a team standpoint, and I ran very global. The majority of my team members were global. That's how I started my business, was before it was even like a sexy thing. My first employee was a remote team member back in 2017. And so I was able, culturally wise, that wasn't a challenge. Definitely you're going to have some challenges when it comes to clients and residents, just because you have, kind of more high tech, high touch business that was mine. And then you have 100% paper and like 50 million filing cabinets. Some people still paid in cash for their rent. So, that
Wow.
culture part was definitely a challenge. However, looking back, since it was during COVID time and we were completely shut down, my kids were homeschooling. So for those of you just listening, I did air quotes, and we were shut down. I had time and, global talent, of course, to help me get everything moved over. So it worked out pretty well.
When you sold that portfolio to Pure, what was your door count at that time?
Yeah. So, and the funny thing is since I did do a divesting of, it was about 120, 130 doors about a year in to another local brokerage. And then we had some sell off and all that. I was just shy of like 400 doors. So
Great.
a little bit different, but the revenue was significantly higher. So that, and again, that's what I teach a lot of times is, the business that I bought, he was only charging a management fee and a lease up fee, very low numbers. And so I looked at that as a major opportunity to take, those doors and be able to take the revenue programs I had and increase it significantly. And I did that.
Gotcha. We were just at Broker Owner, a month and a half ago, and I feel like the two biggest topics were AI and acquisitions. Why do you think that topic is so let me back up a little bit. Acquisitions has always been a part of all business, and especially in property management, but it does feel like it has a little bit more juice right now, momentum, and not just with the big players, but also the 1,000 to 2,500 door count folks. What do you think has caused that momentum, and what's sustaining the excitement right now in that space?
Yeah, well, I think it's a mix of everything. I think the big guys kind of took a break the last couple of years on doing big acquisition. I think with AI coming in, and I know I wrote about this the last couple of months in my newsletter, in my opinion, we're going to see huge consolidation with the smaller companies. I think we're going to see those kind of start to go away because with AI coming out, if you're not keeping up, and you manage 100, 200 doors and you aren't able to, provide the service to your clients, or you are still like payroll heavy and you haven't like incorporated AI into it and you're making, you're not making as much money. Whereas like the bigger companies, or maybe you are managing 200 doors, but you're staying on top of AI and you're like really working hard, like streamline everything and kind of change up your org chart. You're going to be able to go in and acquire those companies that just haven't been able to keep up. I mean, they're just not going to be able to financially stay open. The other thing that I believe will happen with AI, especially, is the self-managing landlords are going to have way more opportunity to use programs, different AI platforms, to still continue to self-manage and probably do it easier. So as a PMC business owner, if you are not like on the top of your game, I mean, not to, paint a dark, gloomy picture, but you're probably going to go out of business, right? So I think that the people that are kind of looking into the future at that, they're kind of putting themselves in a position where they're like, okay, well, I could probably go out into my community and find those particular companies being like, hey, you're struggling. Like, hey, maybe we'll do a merger. It doesn't always have to be about, for sure buying them out. You could do roll-ups, mergers, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think that will be a big component of it. Obviously, still the boomer wave. I know that there's a bunch of them still hanging on, but they're eventually going to have to sell. And
Mm-hmm.
that the silver wave, still a big factor. But I really think the AI and acquisitions actually really play together. And, I'm a betting person. I mean, at least bet on myself all the time. I would really think that the landscape of what we're doing will change significantly in the next 3 years. The other piece of it, of course, is that generally speaking, property management is recession proof. We all know that economy is not like super amazing. So you still have, I would say, like the PE funds are still starting to come back out. Whether or not they do a great job managing, that's up for debate. But the reality is there is money out there. People think that property management is a great industry. It may not be like a super sexy industry, but it is for recurring revenue. And I think that we'll continue to see people just interested in it for that factor.
We intentionally call this podcast Unfiltered because we welcome hot takes. And I feel like you just gently provided an incredible hot take. And I just want to rewind a little bit. If I heard you correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that any PM owner out there who has, let's say, 100 to 300 doors that's not intentional about integrating future-proof technology, in this case, AI agents, let's include Global Town in that, you're thinking they're at risk of going out of business in the next 3 to 5 years.
Oh, yeah, probably before 5 years, 100%.
I love that I confirmed a hot take and then you just put more heat on it. That was great.
I did. And, and the thing is I think that, in my opinion, I think it's important to share your opinions and about the industry, and not to scare people, but just for the reality of, maybe not everybody is that visionary, and, why not listen and take it in?
Yeah, no, it's great. And also too, just to clarify, do you think that 100 to 300 doors are going to get chipped away from the self-managed owner, or chipped away from the 500 to 1,000 door portfolio that is utilizing the technology and the AI, et cetera?
I think both. That's why I think it's important. And really any size. If you're at 1,000 doors.
Yeah, good point.
One would think that you're probably using some technology. I guess you can do anything. Maybe there's somebody out there managing on paper at 1,000 doors. Bless you if you are. But if you're really not embracing the future at any door count, that's going to be a challenge. So I think either, both.
So what are you seeing in the market right now? The people you're working with, are they trying to get acquired? Are they acquiring? And if they are acquiring, what's their door count and their strategy?
Yeah. So I work with both. I primarily work with people who want to learn how to buy. I have a program for that, a 4-month program, and I teach them basically how to build out their acquisition engine. So in every property management company, you have your door-by-door engine that we've always had forever. But I'm teaching you how to build out your acquisition engine so that you have all the tools and you're capable to go do a deal. So you wouldn't be like me in 2020, bumbling around and trying to be like, I don't know, is this good or bad? Or what questions to ask, or what should I even look for? I have no idea. So that's primarily who I work with. And they actually, so everybody, of course, comes in with a goal of they want to acquire something, but all of them are very different. So some are going after very specific realtors because they want to go find the side hustle realtor and purchase a small portfolio. And they're very purposeful as to why that's their goal. Some are looking for larger companies. Some are looking for anything, that either that realtor or 200, 300, 400 door company. It just depends on the person, depends on their market, depends on their current setup. And that's what I with them on. We do a 1-to-1 kickoff call. And so we'll really kind of map out what is your plan, because you have to have that specific roadmap. Again, this is my opinion, is, it doesn't matter what kind of business you're doing. If you don't have some sort of roadmap, then you're not going to be able to get to where you want to go.
What are your thoughts on the owner, high-performing owner, and let's say a kind of a smaller metro? We talked offline about this last week. I do a lot of the recruiting, and I work with very high-performing clients. They want to acquire, but then they look around 30 minutes from their headquarters and they say, I'm there's nobody here for me to acquire. So then I got to step out an hour and a half, 2 hours. So what would you say to that high performing PM owner that doesn't have a lot of acquisition targets in their immediate network and maybe has to branch out farther territorial wise and they typically would be comfortable with? Does that make the acquisition more difficult, impossible? Does it just make it harder but still doable? Like, talk to that owner, because I feel like that's a lot of PM, is especially people will be listening to a podcast. They're high performers. They're typically already better than their competitors. They don't always want to buy their competitors, but they still want to buy. So that just, I feel like they're stuck.
Well, I think I would have to ask why, number one, like, why don't you want to buy your competitor? And is that a story you're telling yourself? Because that is the one of the number one things I hear, like when I'm doing a clarity call with somebody is, well, I don't want to buy somebody else's junk. Okay, but is it all junk? Is that a story that you're just telling yourself? Because it sounds like it probably is. And I always use myself as that example. When I bought 370 doors, yeah, there was over 100 that didn't align with me. And it wasn't necessarily the doors. One was a client. Another was the actual doors and like the location, just that particular buildings that we managed. So I was able to divest those to somebody else in my market a year later. So there are different strategies. And I think a lot of times when we're predetermining decisions that we actually don't really know the answers to, we're really not doing ourselves a good service. So I would say, number one, like, is that really true? Probably not. And then number two, I would also argue like the whole, premise of, well, there's nobody in my market. There's got to be somebody in your market. I mean, unless you truly are in a small town of like 2,000 people and you're in the middle of nowhere, that's fair. But I would venture to guess there's got to be somebody. I mean, there's like side hustle realtors. There's always somebody else in your market. It's just a matter of finding them. And then number three, of course, if you go through both of those and those two stories are entirely true, then you just have to make a decision on you and your business and where do you want your business to go. If you really do want to acquire and those two original stories are entirely true, then deciding, okay, well, where am I willing to go? How far? What would that need to look like? Would I need to increase staff? Can I use some AI where I need to? Can I use global staff? What are all those components? So there's a lot of that kind of conversation to kind of go through. Does that make sense?
Yeah. If I'm hearing you correctly, it's people need to lean towards buying. And then it might not be the perfect portfolio. It might be a little too big. It might be a little too small, but setting that motion and that momentum, have a bias towards action when it comes to acquiring, and good things will work out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's really just about the activities and the conversation and the relationship building. Whatever we do, we can have all the goals we want in the world, but if we don't actually take action on them, we're not going to achieve them.
Yeah. And the people you're talking to, they obviously want to buy. Like, the question isn't, should I buy? I want to buy. What do you see as the biggest barrier for them to why they haven't done it already and why they're, contacting you as the expert?
Yeah. Well, there isn't really a roadmap, or there hasn't been. Now there is, because I'm working with people in our specific industry. In fact, I'm the only acquisition strategist in third-party single-family property management that's just focused on this.
What's the biggest challenge in them, like, not doing it, basically?
Right. Yeah.
Like the last hurdle kind of mentally.
Yeah, the last hurdle. So when people come to me, it's a variety of things. I think the not ever have, they haven't ever done it before. So there's a lot of like unknown fear, like the what if questions, like, well, what if I buy and then, I churn half the portfolio, or what if, a lot of that, I guess, basically kind of fear-based, which is why I put together programs so that we could get through those things. Those mental hurdles, and then people feel confident to move forward. And to be fair, there really hasn't been anything out there. I mean, really the biggest thing is fear, and kind of working through that and just knowing that you can do it. And, there is a lot of different variables to it. So then just learning those and then just doing it.
Yeah, it's frightening when you haven't done it before. I mean, it's a massive purchase. There's loans involved. There's new people, new owners, new all things. And, we see it on the recruiting side when someone's recruiting or hiring their first senior leader, things that they know how to do, they just kind of panic because they've never done it. Just an offer letter. It's like, well, it looks very similar to a more junior level, but like there is some variance here. So having the expert alongside them is so helpful. But the fear-based narrative, it's incredible. And it seems like you do a really good job of talking them out of that and convincing them that sometimes what they think is true is completely false and completely made up.
Right. Right. And I think that's everything in life, if you haven't
Yeah.
really done it before, right? I mean, and, we can all think back about the first time we did something, you may try and talk yourself out of it just because you haven't done it before. But I always believe anybody can achieve anything they want. You just got to learn some of the techniques and do the activities and it'll happen.
Well, speaking of activity, 2026, has it been to the pace you thought it would be when it comes to acquisitions, or has it been slower? Has it been faster? What's the pulse right now in the acquisition space that you're seeing?
I would say actually it's relatively active. I think there's a lot more activity going on than people think there is. I've heard, again, people are like, oh, so-and-so's not buying or, nobody's selling. I hear a lot of, oh, nobody in my market is selling. But to be fair, most property management companies don't get listed for sale. So, it's like, well, actually, if you call around, in fact, I have a client who did do calls and he reported back. He's like, yeah, I talked to, a couple people. I made a bunch of calls, but I, got a hold of a couple people and one of them told me they sold 2 months ago. So people are selling. It's just not usually like out in your face. It's not like the housing market.
Yeah, they're not going to put a sign outside their office doors and say, "Hey, we'd love to sell."
Right. Yeah, generally no. Yeah, generally not.
And also, too, they don't even know how to sell. Like in some ways, it'll probably be the first time they've sold a business in their life. So it's almost like the buyer comes in, initiates that conversation. I know I'm simplifying it a lot, but the buyer really needs to educate the seller on how to let go.
Yes, there is that as well. So again, depending on the seller. So again, if you're like looking at a boomer business, they've had that. A lot of them created it like a job. They haven't sold a business. So, yeah. So yes, exactly what you said. I mean, the buyer a lot of times does kind of have to educate the seller to some form or fashion. I do get messages now from people that are looking to sell. Not necessarily today, but they want to start getting on my radar.
Mm.
As we move into 2027, I'll have some different programs that I'll be working with, both buyers and sellers. And, because they kind of haven't really had a place either to land out there as far as like, oh, I'm looking to sell. And then I have started I've had some potential sellers start contacting me as well of, hey, I don't want to sell today, but I'm looking at like 12 to 24 months. Can I work with you to make sure that I'm set up as well? Like I know the process. I know what a buyer is going to be looking at. I make sure that things are good to go. I've maximized my revenue and all that kind of good stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
I also work with people like that.
I probably should have said this at the beginning, but I feel like we're very adamant about this and even like our podcast notes. You did not pay to be on this podcast. I love your business. I'm fascinated by it. We got connected through a mutual friend, but I know we're talking a lot about your services, and I encourage anyone who's interested in this, please, please, please contact Stacy. But for the haters out there, you didn't pay to be here. This is not pay to play, but I know we're talking about your business a lot. I think what you're doing is really fascinating. And just to shift the convo, we've been talking a lot about buyers. Let's talk to sellers right now. How are you coaching them to get ready in, let's say, the 12 to 24 month window? What can they be doing these next 6 months of 2026 in order to get ready for the sell?
Ooh, well, one, I think recognizing that they want to sell, that they're ready to move on and do something different. With that, of course, comes the psychology of like, okay, if I'm going to sell my business, what am I going to do? So probably have some good plans. Most people aren't going to just sell and go hang out on the beach, 7 days a week, even though we kind of all joke about doing that, but the true entrepreneur would get bored. So kind of that whole psychology part of it. But then really kind of looking back at their business, like stepping out of their business and looking at it through the eyes of a buyer. So I kind of just flip everything around, and everything that I have as far as like teaching people how to buy, I just kind of flip it of like, okay, well, let's just go through it like on the reverse side. Where does your revenue come from? okay, do you have a maintenance company? Is it commingled, all the numbers with your property management company? I highly recommend we take that out, like, move that out. Brokerage, kind of same thing, depending on the volume of that. Just making sure things are really clean and organized, making sure, all of your reconciliations are triple tied and good to go, taxes, all your paperwork's in order. What do your client mix look like? Your contracts. So, could you redo your entire business in 12 to 24 months? Probably not, but you can get it to where, it is good for you and like your goals and like what you want your goals to be. So especially again, you're going to look at like, okay, well, if I want X dollars, like, do you meet that now? Do you not?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of taking a look at everything all together.
Yeah, I can see how it could be a good exercise, especially when it comes to having the business be less and less owner dependent. But then sometimes it doesn't really backfire for you. But I'm saying in general, it's like they get their business in a spot to sell where it's not as owner dependent. And then it's a cash flow business and they're working 10 hours a week. And it's like, I don't think I'm going to sell now. Like, this is a fantastic exercise, but I might kick the can on that another 24 months because this is pretty great.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's cool too. So again, like I'm not brokering deals. I'm not a broker as far as doing that. So if, I do work with a potential seller and they do get to that point and they're happy with that outcome, that's cool too.
Yeah, it's still a win for you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's a win for them. I mean, ultimately, it's again, I love helping people reach their goals, whatever those goals are. And so if your goal is like more peace in your life and you can just get some stuff together and then you still own your business and you have a peaceful life, then that's cool too.
Nice. All right, let's zoom out even farther to just property management as a whole.
Yeah.
What are some things that excite you and concern you about the industry right now?
Let's see. Well, I mean, not to beat the dead AI horse, but AI is very exciting to me. I love change. If you haven't been able to tell, I love anything that is like fast moving and change. So to me, AI is very exciting. I think I'm trying to think what else besides AI. I think concerning wise, I would say, I guess also AI on the self-managing landlord landscape for sure. I think legislation is also a concern. I mean, again, I come from the West Coast, so we've been hammered, for years with legislation. And I say this as much as I can, but anybody that is in a more landlord-friendly state, please take a look at what's happened on the West Coast and try and get ahead of it. Make friends with your legislators and get involved so that, we can keep things balanced. I'm very much in a balanced, I agree with balance type stuff. So on a federal level, I think it's housing itself has become very much that hot topic item, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, getting involved in your community at a community level and state level, I think is really important. What else is exciting? I don't know. I just love the business. I love it because it's like fast moving and it's always changing and, I embrace change.
It's a very unassuming space because, I love, you pulled my heartstrings earlier when you said you were recruited to PM with no PM experience because that's who we target. I mean, 90% of the people we place do not have PM experience. They come from home services. They come from HVAC, franchises, construction, transportation. So it is a fascinating multi-billion dollar industry that everyone has a part of their life, whether they know it or not, but they don't actually, like you say, property management. People still don't know what you're talking about. Not even like knowing that that's like an actual business with like 1,000-door portfolios that have staff all over the world and AI agents. Like it is one of the most unassuming industries out there and full of great people. And now this whole acquisition momentum is really exciting and it's really cool. I mean, people are having their lives changed on the sell and the buy side. And it's just, it seems like a really fun time in this space.
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, I'm having a great time. I love what I do. I love property management. I always joke it's like a gang. Like once you get jumped in, you can't leave. So yeah, I think it's a great profession. And I was that same person 22 years ago when I got a phone call. I was like, I don't know what a property manager does. I have no idea. I mean, even though I had rented an apartment in a duplex many years ago, at that time as a homeowner when I got the phone call. But yeah, and then when I learned more about it, I thought, oh, okay, yeah, I can get my real estate license and do this. Like, why not? And
yeah.
I just kind of fell in love with it. I think it's a great, great profession.
All right, so this is one of our more popular questions. 22 years in property management. It is not for the faint-hearted. It's a grind at times, and you've seen a lot of different facets of it. How has property management changed you as a person?
Oh gosh. I think it's actually made me probably a little bit more empathetic and caring. I've done it for at least half my life, or about half my life. I think I think one thing that we lose sight of is that we actually have a really important job because we are providing housing for people, right? It's actually
Mm,
an intimate job. You go into people's homes, even when they're living there, doing periodic inspections, right? You're walking into somebody's home and, you're helping investors with their investment and, being able to help them provide for their family. There were many investors that I got to help over the years where, I remember one, he was such a cool guy. He had this duplex and he ended up, calling me after quite a few years. He's like, I need to sell. It's time. I have cancer. I want to make sure my wife is set up, when I pass on. And, being able to do that and help, truly help people. And I think we lose sight of it sometimes, when we're in the mix of it, right? Oh my gosh, this person sent this, crazy request again. You
mhm.
can get really irritated. But I think it made me just a better person in general, kind of more empathetic and caring toward humankind.
Love it. Well, that's very inspiring, and you're right. You're dealing with very emotional elements of someone's life that
Yeah.
are right under the more material, which is the housing and even the investment management. So, yeah, I love that. It's very true, and it's a good reminder that people need to hear when they get their emails about a dead cat in the washing machine or something. It's like, okay, you're gonna have days like that, but also a lot more days where you're providing real value to people. All right, we're about to wrap up. Thanks again for coming on. This has been awesome. A few rapid fire questions for you that we traditionally ask people. What is the favorite tool or app for your business right now? It doesn't have to be a specific PM tool, but what's the favorite thing you're using today?
Claude Cowork. Yep.
Same.
Yep. I
What are you
love it.
building? What are you building?
So I've done a little bit of vibe coding, but not very much. Mostly I use Cowork just to go in and do stuff that an assistant would normally do. So it goes right into my platforms. I have stuff scheduled out and it's pretty killer. I had it create this entire sheet. So it'll go in and once a week, go in and pull all of my open rates, to all my emails and my click rates and give me all this stuff and then give me ideas on how I can get better at things. It writes a bunch of my copy for me as far as my social media, pulls from my weekly podcast so that I can go and put stuff out there. I don't have to write. Really cool stuff. I have barely scratched the surface, really. I need to spend more time in there.
Yeah, I feel the same. I've started to do specific landing pages before I do a search and list out a specific strategy for clients, with their logo. And it's just incredible to do it. It just looks so much better on this landing page made by Claude Cowork than rather than me do it in Google Slides or something like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. All right. So what's a book or podcast every PM leader should check out right now besides yours?
Besides my podcast. Gosh, I love so many podcasts. I know one that I listen to, it's not necessarily property management, but I love Jasmine Star, the Jasmine Star Show. She works with entrepreneurs, both men and women, totally not property management related, but I just really like her vibe. Yeah. So I would say that's a good one.
Nice. You can check that out. And then what's one word to describe the future of property management?
That's a great question. I would say exhilarating.
Exhilarating. Let's
Like,
go. We started out the interview with acquisition strategist extraordinaire, and we're ending with exhilarating. This
yeah.
is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun.
A lot of big words for a guy from Alabama, so I appreciate it. No, this has been awesome. Well, like I mentioned, I'll be out in Seattle in a couple weeks. Hate to miss you. But there's a lot of exciting things happening in property management right now, and really appreciate folks like you who are leveraging their expertise to help a ton of people. So tell us too, where can people find you? Once again, Stacy did not pay to be on here. This is not an advertisement. We just have some mutual friends and wanted to have her on here. So, but dude, I seriously, I want to give you open floor. Where can people find you? Who are the best people to find you? And yeah, tell us all things Stacy for anyone interested in getting in touch with you.
Yeah. Well, my website's really easy, staceysalyer.com. And Salyer is Salyer.
I misspelled that earlier.
That's okay. But my nickname is the Slayer.
I love that.
So yeah, you can find me at my website or any social media platform, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, under my name. And yeah, as far as like people that want to work with me, I love to help people who want to learn how to buy property management companies. Really, I have a pretty cool program for that. And happy to chat with you, see if that's a fit. I sign up for my mailing list, at least my email list. I send out 2 emails a week on Tuesdays. It's Stacy's Vibe email. It's just relationship, get to know me, and I love to get to know people. I've got people that reply and give me details about their life, which I'd love to hear about. And then on Friday, I send out my weekly newsletter. And then you can find me online. I'm at I do obviously podcasts. I have my own podcast. And then actually in July, Ben with Black Sheep Global and I are
Cool.
doing a 1-day in-person event in Portland, Oregon, July 16th.
Cool.
Which you'll be able to find those details on my website shortly. And then, of course, in all the social medias. And it's going to be a really cool event. We're doing acquisition blueprint. So it's a working day event. So come in, and when you leave, you're going to leave with one working process that Ben has helped you build. And then you're going to leave with your buy box, your roadmap on how you can go out and acquire in your market. So it's a pretty cool
Cool.
event. Yeah.
What, just real quick, what does Black Sheep Global do? Do they do global staffing?
No, they don't. They just process.
Cool.
All
Sorry, Black Sheep. I'm giving you a shout out here. I just didn't know what you did. I
Yeah.
don't do any staffing globally. I was just curious.
Yeah, no, Ben's a great guy. Comes from property management industry, and they do all things like SOPs and process building on different platforms. So,
Cool.
we thought we'd come together and meld together and do a 1-day event.
That's awesome. Love that. I feel like that's where the industry's headed to, is smaller events. I know you're a road warrior as well. So anybody, Stacy will probably be at your local NARPM event, definitely broker owner, and a lot going on this year. So I'm sure you're hitting the road a good bit too.
A little bit. Yeah. In fact, I just confirmed I'm going to be on a cruise ship in September. I'm joining the Florida State Conference. I'll be speaking there about acquisition.
Nice.
Yeah. So
That's awesome. I saw that email come through and I was tempted, but I can't make it.
Yeah, I've never been on a cruise or to the Bahamas, so it'll be all new. But yeah, I think you can still get a pretty good deal through June 23rd as far as tickets go to that event. So yeah.
Love it. Well, hey, thanks again. Really enjoyed hearing about your business. What you're doing is fascinating. It was fun to get some time with you. So thanks again, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, Stacy.